Hello and welcome back to the Curios Cast. This episode is about the Eilean Mor mystery. Hello, boys.
Hey.
Yeah.
Either of you know what the Eilean Mor mystery is, otherwise known as the Flannan Isles mystery?
I think I've heard the name Eilean Mor,
Yeah.
but
No.
maybe I've just heard of a different Elaine or a different Moor.
Or a different Moor. You might be thinking of the Moor's murderers.
Maybe.
Moor. Brennan on the Moor. Brennan on the Moor.
I've not heard of that. I've heard of the Moor's murderers, but...
Brennan on the Moor is an old folk song.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, that's probably well.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting
it must be,
confused.
yeah.
Yeah. Who does a good version of it? My friend Jack's dad used to do a good version of it.
Oh, yeah, that's where I know it. Yeah, that's where I know it from.
Anyway, sorry to rain on your parade.
My Brennan on the Moor.
So the Flannan Isles mystery, or the Eilean Mor mystery,
Okay.
refers to an event in which 3 lighthouse keepers mysteriously disappeared from a lighthouse situated on the island of Eilean Mor, which is part of the Flannan Isles,
Okay.
which is part of the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. So up on I think it's on the west coast, isn't it? Outer Hebrides.
I'm not familiar. I'm only
so.
familiar,
That's where
I'm only familiar with the Inner Hebrides.
Yeah, they're your favourites. Not so keen on the outers.
No.
So it's approximately 32 kilometres west of the Isle of Lewis, and they're known for their ferocious weather, dangerous rocks, and remote setting. So I'll give you a little bit of background. So in 1895, a 75-foot lighthouse was constructed on Eilean Mor, which is still there now. I think it's still used now. It's automated, but obviously back.
Yeah, I don't think there are any manned lighthouses in the UK at least anymore. Yeah, I don't think so. I think they're all automated. I don't know about the world, but
I've always liked the idea of being a lighthouse keeper.
yeah, it's a mad one, isn't it? Yeah.
Maybe after this story, you won't like it.
Yeah.
I've never seen that as appealing.
No? Just a nice windy, like really, really atmospheric part of the world, just in a little lighthouse on the coast, on your own.
I'm sure you
do
do it for don't you tag people out? There was always like more than one.
Yeah.
I'd go to one for like an Airbnb or something, but I wouldn't want to live
That's
there.
probably all you could do now. You probably can do that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you do it if like 3 months at a time you went out to lighthouse just all on your own?
Yeah.
And you get to read your book,
What's the
work on your faults.
download speed? We'd have to record like 30 episodes ahead of time.
Yeah.
Just to be
And then you could record like solo podcasts while you were there.
Yeah, but not upload them until I got back.
Yeah. Like Matey on that.
Gradually getting crazier and crazier.
Like Matey in that abandoned, well, not abandoned, deserted, the same word, village, that like town. Like, I bought a ghost town in America, ghost town living, yeah. And he used to like.
He's good that.
He is sick. He's good. That was great during lockdown.
Yeah.
I had a good old watch that lockdown. It was a nice slow pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has to like travel to the next town, doesn't he? To upload.
Should get a dongle. Get a little dongle. They work anywhere. Anyway, no dongles on Eilean Mor. So in 1895, a 75-foot lighthouse was constructed, and began construction. It was finished in 1889. It was really rocky and remote, and all of the materials had to be hauled up 148-foot cliffs directly from supply boats. So alongside the lighthouse, 2 sort of landing spots were constructed, one which was called the West Landing and one which is called the East Landing. So where boats could stop and obviously they could get supplies and all that sort of shit. And then the light was lit on the 7th of December 1899. So then the lighthouse keepers obviously began their...
Did it used to be like
life.
Gas?
Paraffin, yeah.
Paraffin, okay.
It used to be paraffin. So they used to have to get all the paraffin, enough paraffin at a time to last however long till the supply boat came back, and then we go from there.
And was its job's purely just to keep you off? Is it not just the rock that it's on, but like general means you're near land?
The area, yeah, I think so.
Keep away because you're generally near a mass of land.
Either be like a strait, I guess. So if the boat's going in towards a harbour, they want to let them know that there's rocks about and shit.
Yeah.
But so they started the...
Shout out to all the lighthouse keepers listening. They've downloaded their podcasts offline for. Yeah.
I'd love to be a lighthouse keeper. I like the aesthetic as well, you know, I like the little caps and the big what are they called, sou'westers?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's like essential
nor'westers.
attire anymore.
No, well, I'd wear it.
Yeah, it'd be a high vis and a hard hat.
Nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'd still wearing like heavy sheep wool, whatever wool is there. You know, like really heavy overcoats and shit.
Alpaca wool?
Alpaca.
Lamb wool? No.
A bit exotic for $18.99 in
Yeah,
Scotland, I guess, alpaca wool. Anyway, so the lighthouse was manned by 3 lighthouse keepers, and they operated on a rotation, like you say.
Yeah,
which
fucking know my
ensured-
lighthouse, man.
So there was actually 4. So the rotation ensured there was always 3 keepers present on the island at one time. So it wasn't like one person was there on their own. There's always 3 of them. And it doesn't actually say it in this, but I always heard a rumour that they never allowed just 2 lighthouse keepers in case one went mental.
I always heard that as a thing, yeah.
I don't know if it's true or
yeah.
not. But so the 3 was apparently to balance out, you know, so one wouldn't go power crazy or something like that. There was always like the
well, and
balancing
like one
factor.
couldn't just overpower the other one and kill him.
Yeah.
And eat him.
Yeah, I suppose that would be the biggest extreme. Do you reckon that was in the manual? So at the time of the event, the 3 men on the rock were James Ducat, who was the principal keeper, Donald MacArthur, who was known as an occasional stand-in keeper, so he was like a supply teacher, and Thomas Marshall, who was the assistant keeper, and then the 4th keeper was on shore. At first, everything seemed to be going well. This was in December 1900, so just under a year since the lighthouse started being used. Absolutely fine, nothing wrong at all. However, on the 15th of December 1900, the steamer Arctur, which was travelling from Philadelphia to Leith in Scotland, noted in its log that the light was not operational in poor weather conditions. When the ship docked in Leith on the 18th of December, this report was passed on to the Northern Lighthouse Board, which I wonder if it still exists. The Northern Lighthouse Board, it must do to deal with all the automated ones. So basically, they got a report that the light was not functioning when it should be functioning.
Yep.
The relief vessel, which was called Hesperus, was unable to sail immediately because of bad weather, and so it did not reach the island until noon on the 26th of December, which is Boxing Day, right? 26th?
Correct.
Is indeed.
What a Boxing Day they're about to have.
Fucking hell. Right.
So on arrival, the crew and the relief keeper who was on board, who was called Thomas Marshall, found that the flagstaff had no flag flying, so it normally have a flag, which I believe would be the Union flag. Maybe, I'm not too sure.
Right.
Or maybe it was like the Lighthouse Board flag.
Or the Scottish flag.
Or probably wouldn't have been the Scottish flag, maybe.
Why?
Because I think they had even less autonomy back then, didn't they?
Oh.
Maybe.
Well.
Anyway, it had a flag on there.
Yeah.
It wasn't flying. They were like,
Yeah.
bit weird. So the Hesperus sounded the horn to try and get the attention of the lighthouse keepers, but were unable to get any response. Normally they'd be there to greet them, or it would be like a big thing. Oh, the ship's here.
With something to do, innit? Yeah.
Something's here. Might be.
Let's.
Yeah. Might have some new, pickled herring with them or something like that. Like
Fisherman's friends.
Fisherman's friends.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But nothing at all. So Jim Harvey.
New album, new Lighthouse Family LP.
The captain of the Hesperus several times attempted to reach them by blowing the ship's horn, and eventually resorted to firing flares, but each time was unsuccessful. So they were moored a little bit off of, the big ship couldn't get in close because the island was too rocky. So eventually they decided to send the relief keeper ashore. So Joseph Moore got in like a little rowing boat, rowed across and arrived at the east landing and found nothing wrong. The landing was fine. All of the provision boxes were left on the landing stage for restocking. So they'd bring all the empty boxes down, get them all ready. Everything was there, absolutely fine. However, none of the lighthouse keepers were there to welcome him ashore, which was common. That's what they would normally do. So he continued up to the lighthouse itself and found that the entrance gate to the compound and the main door were both closed. So you had the actual lighthouse tower, the little house bit that it's attached to, and then like a outer wall. So it was like an enclosed bit that was maybe a bit more secure against weather and stuff like that. Both of those doors were locked, and one of them was bolted. Inside, the kitchen door, however, stood wide open, and the fireplace dark and unused for several days. The clocks had all stopped due to being unwound, and he found all of the beds made.
That's weird.
What does the clock being unwound mean? Like
You're such a ute, aren't you? You don't even like. There was a time when clocks.
Oh, okay. I'm picturing like a wall clock with batteries. Obviously, batteries.
Yeah. Batteries,
I know how a clock works. I did used to have one of those clocks, but it was one of the like little.
You know, it was like
clock.
they didn't have a charger for their smartwatch.
Yeah.
So they,
Didn't have USB-C.
yeah.
I wonder how
You
long...
say like, "Oh, you're such a ute." Like you was around when clocks were wound. Like, these kids these days don't even know what it's like to wind the clock up. Come on.
I don't think I've ever wound a clock up.
You and your batteries.
I'm not sure I ever have. My parents have got like a chime clock, and that needs winding, but we were never allowed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that is
in case the key snapped. Or
something. In case you overwind it.
Yeah.
You know,
then you get too much time coming through.
That was a job for him. That was a job for him only. We don't want to overwind the spring.
That's true. Yeah,
because it's a spring that slowly uncoils to get you.
Well, look at that, a little lesson on clocks.
How often do you have to wind a clock?
Depends how large the spring is, I guess.
I mean, we can, deduce how long
that's true, actually.
they've been unattended.
Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know.
I imagine it would have varied, but so our one was like probably every couple of days you'd have to wind it. But and it's old, but not old. So I'm not like 1900s old. So say it was like state of the art then, because maybe the timekeeping was quite essential in the lighthouse.
Yeah,
you'd expect every couple of days though, wouldn't you? So let's say 2 days max.
Be really shit if you only had one clock and you forget to wind it and you're like, well, I fucked it now. But I can't.
Yeah, you just would not forget to wind it, would you?
I guess not. Yeah, it must have been just like a daily part of life or something.
Just get Alexa to remind you to wind the clock, couldn't you? That'd be easy.
They could have used a candle. They used to have candles that were like an hour long or like a 24-hour candle and shit. That's how they used to tell the time before clock.
Yeah.
Well, so they'd have a candle going, and when the candle runs out, make sure I wind that clock.
Yeah.
But that's only an hour. What you do every hour.
You could get
big
like
candle.
big
an
candles,
18-hour
like 18-hour candle. Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to leave it running when you're asleep.
Running. Anyway, let's get back to the lighthouse on Eilean Mor.
Oh, I like talking about clock.
I think you just wind it every night before bed or every morning.
You'd have a routine.
You'd have a routine to it. Time to wind the clocks.
Yeah.
It is morning.
Well, you do it before bed. If you had a pocket watch, you put it out, put it on your side, give it a wind, go to bed. How about that? Anyway, what am I up to? Yeah, so he's found the clocks unwound, the fireplace empty or unused, and the beds neatly made. That's the word.
That's the creepiest bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So far.
And he states, I then entered each of the rooms in succession, finding the beds empty, just as if they had left them neatly made after an early morning start.
Why is that the weirdest bit? That's the least weird bit. Because they probably...
Because they could be out having a walk, yeah.
Yeah, whatever did happen to them, if it happened not when they're asleep, then the bed would be made. Right?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Yeah, I suppose. But it just feels creepy that, like...
Everything's perfect.
Just, imagine it like a hotel-made bed.
Yeah, untouched, yeah.
But like not necessarily, it's just a bed with a blanket on, isn't it?
He also noticed food ready to eat on the table in like the kitchen, living room area.
That's a weird bit.
That's the new creepiest bit.
Yeah. And personal effects were all still in the lighthouse, so there was nothing missing, basically. He called out, couldn't get any response, couldn't find him, went all the way up to the top of the light. And then started to get creeped out. So he went back to the landing stage and sailed back across to the Hesperus and gathered a few men, which I don't know why they didn't send a few men over anyway.
Well, I guess that at this point,
we just assume
they weren't thinking any foul play or anything. They were just like, he's going to get there, see the lads, wonder why, maybe they ran out of paraffin or maybe something bad's happened to the lamp, something like that. I guess.
So then they gathered the second mate and a seaman. And a further search they went back across, and a further search of the island revealed that the lamps had recently been cleaned and refilled. There's nothing wrong with the light. And one set of oilskins was found, which is like the big, heavy-duty, waterproof jacket that they used to put on. But the other two were missing, so it suggested that one of the keepers had left the lighthouse without wearing his oilskin. And there was no sign of any of the keepers, no personal effects, no bodies, no sign of a struggle anywhere, nothing at all. So the Hesperus had to return to port. So Moore and 3 volunteer seamen were left on the island to attend the light, and Hesperus returned to Lewis, the Isle of Lewis, where a telegram was sent to the Northern Lighthouse Board on the 26th saying, "A dreadful accident has occurred at the Flannans. The 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the occasional," bit harsh on him, isn't it? He hasn't even been mentioned by name, have disappeared from the island.
What does that mean, the occasional?
I guess because he was like the stand-in. He was like the
sub-teacher.
Yeah, the sub-teacher. Okay. But you would think
they don't even use his name.
I know.
Yeah, when he's dead.
They just don't know his name.
Ducat, Marshall, and Muggins.
Yeah.
Disappeared from the island. The clocks were stopped, and other signs indicated that the accident must have happened about a week ago. Poor fellows, they must have been blown over the cliffs or drowned trying to secure a crane.
Wow, blown over the cliffs. I'll just picture it like
secure a crane. What does that mean?
I think they had like little winches to lift boxes off of little rowing boats and stuff. So
if one was getting a bit loose or something, they'd have to.
Or when they were like delivering paraffin and shit, they'd have to. Yeah. I guess it's probably quite heavy, right? I don't know.
Yeah, Amazon guy pulls up, you drop the crane down.
Yeah. So back on Eilean Mor, the 3 men, or the 4 men, sorry, scoured every corner of the island for clues and started to look further than just a lighthouse. They found that everything was intact at the east landing, but the west landing provided considerable evidence of damage caused by recent storms. A box at 108 feet above sea level had been broken and its contents strewn about. Iron railings at the landing and 108 feet up were bent over. The iron railway by the path had been wrenched out of its concrete holding, and a rock weighing more than a ton had been displaced. On top of the cliff at more than 200 feet above sea level, turf had been ripped away as far as 10 metres or 33 feet back from the cliff edge.
Sounds like a Kraken to me.
Yeah, so 200 feet
probably
up.
A Kraken, isn't it? A Megalodon, yeah.
200 feet up, it's mad, isn't it? That's whatever it is, big. However, some of this damage, you might be thinking, it's just waves. Some of this damage was noted in the keeper's logs in the previous days, suggesting that it was not linked to their disappearance. Most notably, a life buoy that was kept secured to a railing 110 feet above sea level was also missing. So they've said the damage has been caused to the east landing, but see, that didn't cause them to disappear necessarily. So no bodies were ever found, and no belongings ever washed up onto shore, making their disappearance a continued mystery to this day. There's a few theories, and like I said earlier, we've got there's like logbook entries, and these logbook entries ended on December the 13th. However, there was also some slate entries, so they just had like a bit of slate that they were also noting down stuff. It was like atmospheric conditions and like readings.
That's mad, isn't it? A bit of slate.
They don't even have paper then?
Didn't it?
Well, they had the logbook, but then they're also using slate. I don't know why. I guess because...
For like a little short note.
Yeah, or maybe they could have that if it was raining, because if you was outside with your logbook, it'd all get wet and shit, wouldn't it? Whereas your slate...
Yeah. Do you know what Ad's got? He's got like this... He uses it on this is like his daughter's. It looks like a tablet with a stylus, and it kind of is a tablet. You can write on it, but then you just wipe it off almost like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's mad.
I think I saw...
And it's like you get for like maybe like 20 quid on like Amazon.
Yeah, I think I've seen something like that, like a little clip where it was like, this thing's fucking magic.
Yeah, it is like magic writing pad. Yeah. It's the sort of thing you probably get like Target advertised if you've got a kid on Facebook, and then like it'll be like 30 quid, and it'll be like this, but it's just on drop shipping, like, and you can find it for like 7 quid maybe, like buy it yourself from China and wait 4 months. But yeah, that just made me think.
We could get one.
It's the modern version of one of those. Yeah, as soon as we saw it with ads, we're like, we all want one of them. But what am I actually going to do on them?
Yeah, we might replace your iPad.
Apart from just draw pictures of dicks every now and then. Yeah, just like,
so there were no dicks on the slate on the label. Unfortunately,
I can imagine some like clip, where like someone edits it on YouTube, where it's like they're like stumbling around looking for stuff, and they find this slate, they're like, oh my god, have you seen it? And it'll be like that guy with a dick.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There has been like Roman
graffiti and
graffiti dug up all that. They'll find a new what's it called, they have like an architectural dig, archaeological dig.
Architectural dig.
Well, it's usually a building, but like they will find Yeah, like even how many years ago was Roman times?
Yeah.
I reckon it's at least 10.
Yeah, at least. And they were still drawing just dicks back then.
Really?
Like, they go back as far as people figured out you could draw things on things.
Yeah.
And there's dicks.
That's brilliant. Just the same.
And it's the same. It's the same way as well. They do it the exact same way.
A little bit of spurt out the top.
Yeah. It also shows that men never mature.
Yeah. And there's like Roman graffiti that is your mum jokes. It was.
I think I heard something about that.
It would be like,
Brilliant.
Venericles' mum is a whore. Like, yeah.
One thing I heard as well, which is funny about like the opposite of that as well, of like basically like boomers being the fucking same through all time, is like there's a trope that goes around, and there's like supposedly like scripture from like ancient Sumerians saying it. Step aside, Joe Rogan. I've mentioned the ancient Sumerians.
Shout out to the Sumerians.
Shout out to the ancient Sumerians. Of like, so, but there's no actual evidence. But there's definitely evidence, like people saying it in like Rome and maybe Greece, of basically saying kids of today.
Yeah.
They're fucking
kids
mental.
These days, lazy.
Yeah. And there's one where there's like this guy's talking to kids these days. All they did was come into the amphitheater and talk about chariot racing and that, and it's like they wouldn't concentrate. And it's so. And there's one I saw that's like from about 1900, and it basically says, all they want to do, all they're doing, these kids, is playing with their newfangled toys, and it's gonna cause them to not have no concentration. It was basically, it could have been written about an iPad.
Yeah.
Now it could have easily. It was the exact fucking same. And it's like, well, that was just like your granddad or whatever. You that's moaning about kids of today.
Kids these days, none of them know how to wind a clock. But yeah, so there's definitely no dicks or kids these days on the slate. So It was boring stuff like atmospheric readings.
Okay.
And, readings taken by the keepers about the light and all that sort of shit.
That is boring.
And this was from the 14th and the 15th of December. And the slate also included the last time the light was extinguished on the 15th, which was noted at 9 a.m. on the 15th. And the slates all suggested that it was a normal few days, nothing worrying about it at all. However, when the log was read, log entries written by Marshall stated that on the 12th of December, there were severe winds to the likes of which I have never seen before in 20 years. He also reported that Ducat had been very, very quiet, which was supposedly unlike him, and Donald MacArthur had been crying.
Oh wait, so we've got a third name now?
No, it's always... Well, there was always the three names, but he got referred to as...
The occasional.
But the occasional was MacArthur.
Okay.
Yeah, MacArthur. So it was Donald MacArthur was the occasional, and he'd been crying, which was unusual because he was a veteran mariner with a reputation for brawling, and thus it would be strange for him to be crying in response to a simple storm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem the kind of...
Yeah, it seems a bit weird.
Kind of guy, yeah. He's going crazy.
And then following this, so that was on the 12th of December. On the 13th, the log stated that the storm...
that, a reputation for brawling. That's good, isn't it?
The log on the 13th stated that the storm was still raging and that all men had begun to pray. This was also puzzling, as all three men were experienced lighthouse keepers who knew they were in a secure structure 150 feet above sea level, or over that actually, it was over 200 feet above sea level, and should have known that they were safe inside. And the lighthouse was less than a year old at this point as well. Furthermore, there had been no reported storms in the area on the 12th, 13th and 14th of December, which also goes against what was written in the log. The final log entry, which was on the 14th of December, simply said, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." And that's it. That's the last log entry in the log on Eilean Mor. The fact that no storms were reported in the area throughout the above dates suggests that either the storm was extremely localized to the island, or, as one theory suggests, it's the result of hallucinations on the part of the men.
I was going to say, was this like, what was that one? I can't remember which of you two did it, but like your man, I think it was maybe you, Tom, and he didn't realise he was going...
Yeah, it's like a classic Reddit story.
And it turned out maybe a carbon monoxide poisoning.
Carbon monoxide poisoning. He was going crazy. He was putting post-it notes all around his house, and he was moving things, and he even like set up cameras. He left his webcam on overnight, so it's like if someone breaks in my apartment or if someone's fucking with me, I can catch it. And then he'd wake up and the files were deleted, like the recording had stopped it being deleted, and then he got a carbon monoxide detector and it was like way off the scale, and it was him going crazy. Doing shit to himself.
Could be like a carbon monoxide leak.
Yeah, all three of them going crazy at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I suppose the paraffin lamp could have been given off carbon monoxide.
Yeah, or maybe like, underground carbon monoxide.
Potentially.
Got worked loose by the storm.
Now, one thing I would say is that the lighthouse continued to be manned up until the 60s, and no one else things were reported.
That'd be eerie, like being there. That's spooky.
And especially like seamen, they're normally like a little suspicious, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
yeah, bit salty.
Oh, Thomas.
Suspicious is not the word I wanted. Superstitious,
yeah.
Superstitious.
Writing on the wall.
So was one other person that noted down something unusual about the events, which was a guy called Roderick Mckenzie, who was, I think he was a shepherd that lived around 18 miles away on Gallen Head, and he was employed by the Lighthouse Board to check in with the light, because there was obviously no radios, nothing like that. So he was paid to basically check at certain points throughout the day whether the light was on and note it down, and then also to check if the lighthouse keepers were signalling for help or anything like that, because they had like a system where they could lower poles out of the side of the lighthouse or change the colour of the light slightly to indicate that there was a problem. So he was basically the lookout who had to keep to a schedule and then record it, stuff like that. So every night he noted whether he could see the light or whether any signals could be seen at certain points throughout the day. When he was asked about it, so a few days later, the board went to him to see what information he had. He reported that he was unable to see the actual lighthouse between December the 7th and December the 29th. And he was able to see the light on the 12th, but then not again until it was relit on the 26th by the relief keeper Moore, so after they entered the lighthouse again. He stated that while the absence of the light concerned him, he did not see it necessary to report it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Surely that was his one job.
It was literally his one job.
Yeah.
So he had been required to report any issues immediately by telegram, but failed to do so. Afterwards, a report stated that if an actual keeper had been appointed to the role, it is likely that his lack of visibility would have been reported, and the relief vessel would have been sent, way before. So something to bear in mind is that he said he could see the light on the 12th. Also didn't really say that there was a storm, but he couldn't see the actual lighthouse. And on the 12th, 13th and 14th is when the logbooks were all saying, yeah, it's all fucked. However, also bear in mind that on the 14th and the 15th of December, the slate was written absolutely fine, and there was no issue on the slate. That was just like standard reading.
Yeah.
But on the slate, it also says that the light had been kept on each day until the 15th. But he said he couldn't see it, apart from the 12th. So there's a bit of miscommunication, or he's either pissed up or...
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like he's that good at his job.
Yeah.
Nah.
I wonder if he got kept on. Doesn't say whether he got kept on.
And the human memory shit as well. He could have just missed... Well, I suppose only a couple of days later they asked him. He shouldn't have forgot already.
Yeah.
Might have
if that's your one job.
Well, no, it wasn't a couple of days later. Well, it was the 12th, as he last said he backed this light, and then at the 26th, he saw it lit again.
Yeah.
They went and spoke to him a couple of days after all this, like maybe the 29th, 30th.
Yeah.
Been a few weeks.
He also might have been covering
been Christmas and that,
Yeah.
Fun.
Had a few meads.
Yeah.
A few whiskies.
They have Bucks Fizz back then? Probably not.
Buck Fast, though, maybe.
Bucks Fast.
Buck Fast, you know?
Oh, that's, we spoke about it before.
Drink.
That's Scottish drink, yeah.
So, one of the main theories now takes into the account the geography of the islands. The coastline of Eilean Mor has lots of narrow gullies called geos. And the west landing, which is situated in a geo, terminates in a cave, which means that in high seas or storms, water would rush into the cave and explode out again, like with more force than you would actually have. So it's been theorised that it's possible MacArthur may have seen a series of large waves approaching the island, and knowing the likely danger to his colleagues on the West Landing, ran down to warn them, only to be washed away as well in the violent swell.
Brutal, isn't it?
So that suggests why his oilskin was left inside and the others weren't.
What? Because it weren't that bad when he went out.
Well, he was just in a rush. He was like, "Fuck, I
right.
need to get down there." However, why would he bolt the door after himself? So he closed the both of the inner doors. If you're in that much of a rush, probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a contradiction.
Man, imagine like being on one of those tiny little islands in Scotland in December, going out without your jacket.
Madness, yeah.
I mean,
hard as nails,
tough as
old
boots. So also was noted that Marshall had previously been fined 5 shillings when his equipment got washed away during a huge gale. So it is likely, in seeking to avoid another fine, that he and Ducat were trying to secure their equipment during a storm and were swept away as a result. The fate of MacArthur, although required to stay behind to man the lighthouse, can be guessed to be the same. Speculation is that he tried to warn or help his colleagues and was also swept away. This theory has, like I say, it has the advantages of explaining the set of oilskins remaining indoors and MacArthur's coat remaining on its peg, although it fails to account for the closed and bolted door and gate.
And gate as well. That's like the next level of like, you can't be rushing that much if you bolt the gate.
And then you wouldn't forget your oilskin. Like if you weren't on that much, you put it on.
Yeah, that takes much less time than locking and bolting the gate.
Yeah. Another theory was based on another lighthouse keeper who was on the island from 1953 to 1957. He believed that one man may have been washed into the sea, but then his companions who were trying to rescue him were also washed away by a further freak wave. Because of reports from the 50s state that water frequently reached upwards of 300 foot on Eilean Mor during severe storms, with the lighthouse itself becoming saturated and
a lot of foot.
300 feet, that's mental.
Yeah.
It's about was that long jump in the hotel, isn't it? What is 300 feet in real money?
Don't really know what it is in meters.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to figure it out because I've got a couple of other...
I think it's about... I was about to say about 100, but it seems like...
148 feet is 45 meters.
Yeah, so pretty much double.
Yeah,
about
100 meters. Well done, Tom. Whoa!
Sam is quite
Mr.
high.
Metric System over here.
So I mean that suggests that the weather's pretty mental, and the chances of them being all right, mate. Got his big old bottle of water out.
Small bottle.
So that suggests that it potentially was just a rogue wave hitting the island. At the same time, a lighthouse keeper was almost washed away by a rogue wave whilst attempting to take photographs of large waves. So
it's the risk you won.
Yeah, it is. That's a bit like a storm chaser, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like almost being hit by a flaming tar barrel when trying to film flaming tar barrels.
A further theory is based on the psychology of the keepers. Allegedly, MacArthur was a volatile character, who was the one that was described as a brawler.
A brawler.
Loves a scuffle.
This may have led to a fight breaking out near the cliff edge by the West Landing that caused all 3 men to fall to their deaths.
Silly.
Another theory is that one of the men went insane, murdered the other 2, threw their bodies into the sea, and then jumped into his own death.
Oh, it's possible, but not plausible.
Not plausible.
It's less likely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then another possibility is that one or more suffered from hallucinations, which ties back into the strange log entries, or one went mad, leapt from the rocks, whilst the others slipped as they tried to stop him. However, no evidence of violence or a struggle was found on the island. And then the final theory is aliens or the Kraken.
Yeah,
probably.
Most likely.
So the Kraken is a big part of the folklore of that area. The Kraken and water sprites. They're like mer people.
Yeah.
So one of the theories is that they were angered by something the Lightkeepers had done, and they dragged them into the sea, and they were never seen again.
What do you think they did to anger them?
Not too sure. Maybe
pissed in the sea.
Pissed in the sea. Maybe just the fact that they were on the island. They didn't like it.
Maybe they disrespected it in some way. Like went out there and was like,
Playing their music too loud or something.
Yeah, or just like, I am better than, like, look at this fucking bullshit storm. Like, I'm better than the sea.
Literally pissing into the
I'm
water.
better than the sea. That's probably what they said.
Well, isn't that what, like, Odysseus? Oh no, Odysseus said he was better than the gods.
Mm.
So that's how the Odyssey.
They murked him.
That's how the Odyssey begins. Yeah, because when he did the Battle of Troy, and he came up with a Trojan horse, he thought he was a fucking absolute. It was a sick idea.
Good idea. Yeah.
And he was like, and he went out and was like, I defeated Troy. Like I brought down Troy. I'm a fucking sick cunt. And then was like, fuck the gods. I'm better than the gods. And then Poseidon was basically like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck you over now for 11 years.
Rinsed him.
Stopped him getting.
Take
over
that as a
11
warning,
years.
Tom. All right.
Yeah. And that's what could have happened. So they could have gone out there and like just one day, like they were just like, this storm's fucking bullshit, like pussy storm. Like, what's this mean? And then they were just like, fuck the sea, fuck all you sea bitches. And then these sprites were like, nah,
not having it.
Summon the Kraken. Get the Kraken out. Tell them what the sea's about.
Because 300 foot at the top, turf ripped out. Would a wave bend railings?
Sounds very Kraken-y to me. I did say that instantly, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
My first thought was the Kraken.
And then the Kraken gently bolts the door closed.
Yeah.
No, that's the sea sprites. So the sea sprites work in unison with the Kraken.
Okay.
So like they come up initially and they're like, fuck you pricks. And then the Kraken, they go, let's get a Kraken.
He's like the muscle. He's the muscle.
Yeah, they go, let's get the Kraken. Like they end up like coaxing them out. Maybe like some like female sea, some like mer women. Mermaids.
Siren.
Mer women. Yeah, they siren them over. And then they come out, and then the sea sprites like
shank them.
Yeah, shank them, or they go, Kraken, get them, and then they run and bolt the door and go, draw a quick dick on the slate.
So yeah, that's it effectively. That's the mystery of the Eilean Mor Lighthouse. It's one that is always, I know I've said it a few times, but again, this is one that was in books when I was growing up. It was always like a classic mystery.
Did you just have like one book which had about like...
Well, I told you about, I want to try and find it. In the library there was like 2 or 3 books that I'd always go back and read, and there was always ghost stories and like mysteries like this.
Oh, that reminds me, did you have you had any read of that book? I gave you a going away book, didn't I?
Oh,
yeah, I think we spoke about it because there was it was called The W Files, which was about Wisconsin. And it's quite interesting, quite funny. And there was one, it was like this, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but I'll quickly mention it again from memory. It was a theory about a civilization that was trading between Europe and a civilization in Michigan on like the Great Lakes, because there was like this evidence of like quite a large civilization that were mining, I think it was like silver or iron or something. So it basically suggested that the Iron Age occurred because iron was coming from America to Europe.
Okay.
And I was like, reading, I was like, fucking, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's pretty interesting. Cool, yeah, looking it all up. And, I've messaged my friends. I said, because they always take the piss out of me as well, like you do. But I messaged them and I was like, look, this is like generally quite interesting. Like, it's pretty mad. Like, even just the idea I quite like.
Yeah.
And one of my mates messaged back and said, "Oh, is this the guy that wrote it? Like, is this the theory? Like, the guy who's come up with the theory?" I was like, "Yeah, that's it. Why?" And he went, "Oh, he's a paedophile and a Nazi." And he's like, he's like a
brilliant.
Yeah, he's a registered paedophile, and I think he was worse than that. I think he was
fuck's sake,
top Nazi
paedophile. So then instantly, I was no longer able to even think about that theory anymore. Even if it does come to be real, I don't want it.
No, I don't want any more. Fuck that theory.
But it's good. I've read the whole thing. There's some good things in there.
But now you hate everything you read.
Well, it's not. So the guy who wrote the book isn't a Nazi.
Oh,
paedophile.
okay. Oh, that's good. Okay,
it's just
a theory.
That theory comes from another book that's written by this Nazi.
Let's hope he's not getting any royalties for the quid that Rob paid for that book.
I can hope not. But yeah, so maybe we'll talk about one of those weird Wisconsin. There's lots of Bigfoot in there, so that's what I like.
Nice.
But yeah, so this was the Eilean Mor mystery. Still unresolved to this day.
We can fix that.
I think we just resolved it. Kraken.
Yeah, Kraken. I like the idea of the Kraken. I think that even the idea of a big storm, big wave, there's some unanswered questions there.
Yeah. Why do they lock the doors?
Yeah. Why do they lock the doors?
Why would you ever lock the door?
Yeah. Who's
who's coming in.
breaking
Yeah.
in.
Sea sprites.
Unless the
Or
door,
is it
unless you needed to bolt the door to keep it closed. Like maybe you need to close the door and bolt it. Otherwise,
It ain't like a padlock. It's just
so they
bolted
might have-
across.
So
Yeah.
it probably just means someone.
It's just what you do on the way out.
Yeah.
latched
Otherwise,
it.
the door just flaps open and it might blow the light out or whatever.
Potentially. But, the sort of atmosphere is quite good on this one, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I
It's a
imagine
bit
it being
creepy.
foggy.
I could
Yeah.
picture it all
You know.
like
The ship's horn
Yeah.
in the mist,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the flare going
we
up.
all did that. We all
Yeah,
felt the
it's
need to do that.
And imagine going into that lighthouse and it being the wind howling through it and everything overturned. It's like, great.
I missed that at New Year's, being in a different place. I was used to we were in like Grays at New Year's, you hear all the horns
Yeah.
and the ships that all blast their horns.
Give it.
Anyone's in dock, yeah.
I think we've spoken about that.
I feel like we have spoken about that.
15 episodes now about the foghorns. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you've got a theory on the Flannan Isles lighthouse mystery, let me know. Obviously, at this point, it's over 121 years old.
Wow.
It'll be 121 this year. So
We'll celebrate it.
we'll celebrate it. Yeah, we'll all go up to the Flannan Isles.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Is there still a lighthouse there? Like
still a lighthouse
unmanned one now?
It's all automated.
The same lighthouse?
Same lighthouse is still there.
That's interesting.
Or is it unmanned? What if they've come back?
Yeah, so
no one knows.
Ghosts
Oh.
might be haunted.
Yeah.
The only other thing that's on that island is a weird little chapel. So way back when, like back in 600, there was a like a hermit living there, like a not a priest, but like a
Crab.
yeah, like a like a religious guy who
Okay.
went and lived there and had his little chapel, like a little hut, and people would, like the local sort of shepherds and stuff, would sail across to his island to see the hermit, and he'd be like the
Man, people really had nothing
Magic
going on
man,
back then,
yeah.
did they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 20 miles. That's a 20-mile journey to go and see some
Yeah.
smelly guy who
And
definitely
why did you
won't
say
get
like 600? What's this way before the lighthouse?
way before. It's like
Oh,
an
okay.
ancient structure.
Okay.
Wow.
And then it
interesting.
got abandoned, and then it was used for sheep grazing, and then they built a lighthouse.
Hmm.
So there's rumours of it being haunted by this hermit. Maybe it was the hermit ghost that fucked him up.
Fucked them up. Could be.
But yeah, so
Could be.
that's it. That's all I've got for you.
Nice one.
Um,
I like
yeah.
that.
that in
like
itself is a mystery.
Yeah.
So that's it, everyone. Tune in next week for another episode of the Curios Cast. We don't know what it will be.
No.
But that's all part of the fun.
Yeah, and we haven't said it for a while, but if you haven't, go leave a review on. I think only Apple Podcasts is the only app that actually has reviews
Yeah,
for podcasts.
can't-
I went
can't
on
do it
like
on
Google
Spotify.
Podcasts, and I don't
No,
think
you
it's
can
there.
on like the
Some real obscure
Castbox.
ones.
So if you're an Android listener, I think you can on Castbox, which is that there are some other Android apps, but I think that was the best one I found when I was using Android. I think most people, pardon me, most people
feedback on that one.
most people use Castbox. I'm pretty sure you can review on there. Maybe I'm wrong.
And even there's a lot of people that probably use Spotify. But if you are using Spotify, head over to Apple Podcasts on whatever device you've got. Like you can still get on it and just leave us.
You could just download iTunes on your PC and do it on there.
That's a lot of effort. No one's doing that, are they?
Yeah.
But yeah, just
And also
help us out.
YouTube channel. Give us a little like, give us a little subscribe.
Yeah, tell your mates. And there's a few people that keep commenting. Keep up the comments. We appreciate them.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace. See you on the next one.
That's the Curios Cast.
Bye bye.